Hello and welcome to the Fresh Air. Hello and welcome to the Fresh Air Sci-Fi Show. I'm Joe.
And I'm Dave.
And minor hiccup there at the beginning, but there always is. So, if you remember was it last Tuesday or last Thursday that we did this? It might have been last Thursday,
Last
actually.
Thursday.
Yeah, I think I put in the notes last Tuesday, but it was
Yeah.
last Thursday. We did a little experiment. And by experiment, I mean it was a test, really, an online quiz from a site called Philosophy Experiments. And we really enjoyed it. We had a good time. So we thought, you know what? Let's get on it. Let's do another one. So we figured we would get people involved again. Hopefully, have a few more people join us. We have left the offer there to if any of our regulars want to come on and do it as well, they can, like live with us on air, or if they would rather sit in the chat room and they just want to answer the questions or fill things in, that's perfectly fine as well. But I personally just found it like really entertaining doing this and seeing how many of the things I changed my mind on after deliberation, and the different way people thought about things. So we're going to do that. Is there anything else I needed to say, Dave? I've forgotten. My mind's gone blank.
The name of the things that we'll be doing?
Yes,
The two
that's right.
tests?
Yeah. So if you're looking on somewhere like YouTube, in the notes, it's got the links to the tests that if you want to do them along with us. But if you go to philosophyexperiments.com, we're going to be doing Staying Alive, followed by Philosophical Health Test. So Staying Alive is looking at it sixth, seventh, or something like that down, and Philosophical Health Test is the fourth one down. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to put things in be right back mode very briefly to share my screen. And we will catch you guys in just a tick.
Do it the same as we did last time, innit?
Hello. Right, sorry about that. Took a little bit longer than expected because I stupidly had left my pad downstairs. Hey Rusty, how you doing? Right, need to bring up the browser. Something is leaning on some. Ah, there we go. My secondary keyboard had switched to keyboard mode. That's why it wasn't working. So, this is Philosophy Experiments, and we're going to be doing Staying Alive. So, the aim of the game is to stay alive. There are 3 rounds. In each round, you'll be presented with a scenario and then offered 2 choices. The decisions you make determine whether you stay alive or perish. You should always base your decisions on nothing more than a desire to keep yourself in existence. Also, each scenario should be taken at face value. The situation will be as described, there are no tricks, and you do not need to worry about other what ifs, which actually is quite useful because we were talking like that when we were doing the one last week. We were like, oh, but what if? Oh, it could
Yeah.
be this. So this is straight up face value. There is no what ifs. At the end of the game,
I
you will
bet I
just.
can still bring some up.
I'm sure you can. At the end of the game, you will discover if you stayed alive or not, although being a philosophical game, the verdict won't be straightforward. So, I mean, this is going to be interesting in itself because there's going to be some moral conundrums where you want to do the right thing, but doing the right thing might lead you to not staying alive. So, the aim of this game is to stay alive, not do the right thing. Not sure I'm going to be any good at doing
I was
that.
just thinking we should have had Luke on for this, for the psychopath test.
Well, yes. So we are actually planning on doing that, aren't we? So next time Luke's available, we're going to do that test that I tagged in the Answers in Reason group. Going to put that one out there. That's not exactly the psychopath test. That's 10 personality traits, but then we could actually do the psychopath test as well.
Oh no, I was thinking have him doing with this and judge how much of a psychopath we are based on our answers.
Yeah, fair. Viking says, "What if dying is the right thing?" Well, that might be the right thing to do, but that's not the aim of the game. We can deliberate what we'd like to do, and we'll then say what we're going to do to stay alive. So yeah, that's basically it. Um, oh, hey Leon, I didn't see you come in there. Always good to have you here. So, Leon, for this one, I don't know if you caught it. The aim of the game is to stay alive. So, you don't necessarily have to think about the ethics. I know you don't necessarily like thinking about that too much. All you have to do is think about what's going to keep you alive. Hey, Philip, great to have you here as well. All right. So, shall we start? I think we shall. You ready, Dave?
Yep.
Awesome. So, also, I don't know if any of you out there wanted to do the test along with us and tell us what your answers are. If you look on YouTube, there's a link to this. If not, it's philosophyexperiments.com. And this one's Staying Alive. It's the 7th or 8th one down. Okay. I'm going to assume you're already there and we can continue. So, Staying Alive, the scenarios. Round 1. The teletransporter choice. You have been chosen to go on a very important mission to Mars. You have no choice in this matter. You must go. But you can choose your means of transport. One method is teletransportation. You will step into a scanner here on Earth that will destroy your brain and body while recording the exact state of all your cells. This information will be transmitted to a replicator on Mars, taking 3 minutes to arrive, which will then create a brain and body exactly like yours using new materials. The person on Mars will look like you, think like you, in fact be indistinguishable from you. He or she will certainly feel as though they have merely fallen asleep on Earth and then woken up on Mars. This method is 100% reliable. The other method of transport is space travel. This is very risky, and there is 50% chance that the spacecraft will not complete the journey and you will die in transit. But if you do successfully take the spacecraft, then your body and brain won't at any stage have been destroyed. You must choose the option you will think give yourself the biggest chance of surviving. Oh, see,
I thought
this
that.
is.
Yeah. Sorry.
I was going to say this is an interesting one because the transporter kills you essentially.
But does it?
Well, we don't know, but
Well, that's what I was going to say. They said at the beginning there would be no curveballs. But the first question is a curveball because it depends on how you see identity.
Yes, yeah. But then that's why it's asking a question about identity, isn't it? So
Yeah.
it's a tough one because if we do regard the transporter in that way, where your entire body and everything like that is broken down and it's replicated you. Now, it's not actually transmitting your cells there, is it? It's copied you and basically sent a copy of the pattern there and then rematerialized you. So in that, and it also says your brain and body are destroyed. And I think if you say it that way, that is death. You die, even if you've died for 3 minutes, and you say that okay, you're alive again. Now, I suppose another argument could be made that if there is, I mean, we don't believe there's a soul, but if there is no soul, then what difference is it? You're still sort of alive anyway. You're exactly the same. Um, Chip Theseus style. Don't know. Um, what are your thoughts on it, Dave?
Well, I was just going to mention to Philip that, yeah, it's the ship of Theseus. And I've heard this one used as the sort of modern sci fi version of it. Now, it really depends on how you see identity. Is identity the continuation of your experiences, or is it your every cell in your body? Is it your brain? Um,
So
because
if
if we
we,
think about it, our cells are constantly replicated. Every 7 years, we're a wholly new physical being, but we're still us.
yeah, I suppose it goes back to your first assignment. The
Yep.
difference between the person and the man. So in this instance, the man dies, but the person continues.
Yeah.
I mean, the man comes back as well, but it's a
Well, that's
different.
just
It's
it.
technically a different man, isn't it? But it's the same person.
If it's recreating you from new materials, but in exactly the same way, then you're still exactly the same man, just new materials. Uh, if it's going to be an exact replica of you, everything is still the same. It's just different atoms
Hmm.
in a different place. Think of like the example with the P zombie and the Zimbo.
Uh-huh.
You can't have an exact replica of a human without having all of the inner life that comes with it.
Mm-hmm.
So in this case, recreating you out of new materials still recreates an exact copy of you. You can't have you without everything else being exactly the same. And you'd have your memory of being transported, so there would be a continuation of memories
Mm-hmm.
and a continuation of experience. So I would say you're still the same you.
Yeah.
You haven't died.
No. Yeah. No. I mean, I feel that way about transporters, but there's something about me that goes, well, we don't know.
You could come back as a brindlefly if you've
Well,
ever seen the movie
there
The
is that.
Fly.
Yeah. Brilliant. Yeah. Bleh.
Yeah.
I even enjoyed the second one, you know.
I loved it with Eric Stoltz.
Oh, is that who it was? It's been so long since I've seen it. I just thought it was actually like a good continuation.
Have you seen Pulp Fiction?
Yes.
You know the drug dealer in Pulp Fiction?
Uh,
John Travolta goes to him and
it,
Mia overdoses.
yes.
That actor is the actor that played the son of the Fly.
Oh, blimey.
Yeah.
Um,
I know way too much movie trivia.
um, I'll have to check out both those movies again because they're both too far away in my brain, and there's been quite a lack of good new movies I found. Um, although you know the kid who plays Spider-Man. Can't remember his name off the top of my head. Tom something, isn't it?
Tom Holland,
Tom
the
Holland.
new
That's
one,
it. Yeah, I watched that film. Oh, what's it called?
Chaos Walking.
Yeah, I thought that was quite good.
I watched that the other night. It was pretty good. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it had her from the new Star Wars films.
Yes. Do you know it's funny? When she appeared, I went, "Gosh, she looks like she could be Ray's sister." And so I did a quick IMDb. It's like, oh no, it is just Ray.
Yeah, yeah. No, it was pretty good. I like the idea of it.
Yeah. I wanted to know though. I just wanted them to explain why it only happened to guys.
Yeah, it never really did it?
No, no. Well, the religious guy said it was because women had no souls.
Yeah, but it never really actually explains it.
No, no, it didn't. Yeah, I mean, must have been based on a book or something, though. I wonder if there is actually some.
It was.
Yeah, maybe it actually explains it a little bit more in that.
Yeah, I think it's a series of books.
So, what does everyone say in the chat?
Well, I've got mine open. And I'm going with the teleporter.
Yeah, I mean, I was 50-50 on that one, so I didn't actually write down what I'd done. I say I was 50-50. I was probably 51-49 to the teleporter, but I will side with you on that one. Yes, for the Ship of Theseus vibes. What about you guys? I'm trying to get through. Oh my god, there's a Stephen Law AMA going on right now. Oh, maybe we should just.
Yeah, we can't compete with that. I just watch it all together on our stream.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't realize we'd put something on at the same time as him. Dude's a legend. Gonna have to catch up on that one afterwards. So yeah, Leon says they'd go to teleporters as well.
Yeah.
Rusty, an AMA is an Ask Me Anything. That's why when we do our end of month AMA free for all, it's an Ask Us Anything free for all. But yeah, don't worry. I wouldn't hold it against you if you went and checked out the Stephen Law AMA. He's definitely far more interesting and knowledgeable than us. We won't hold it against you, I promise. So yeah, so I'm going teleporter as well. So the transportation has taken place. Welcome to Mars. Silicon or virus? Life on Mars turns out to be not a.
Yeah, I told you.
What? Told you
that
what?
The teleportation was the right option.
But I reckon I reckon we'll survive, and at the end it will tell us. So even if you did the ship thing, I reckon it would have said you survived anyway. And
good point.
And then it was said at the end, and I reckon it's going to say that because we've taken the teleporter, we're not actually us anymore. I think that's going to be the take that it's going to go on, or it's going to explain a bit of identity and say, you know, you're not technically the you were, and then go into what we were talking about how cells are replaced anyway, etc. But yes, sorry, let me start that again. Life on Mars.
Because it did say.
Sorry, go for it, Dave.
I was going to say it did say something about talking about the philosophy at the end of the questions, didn't it?
Yeah, so I reckon no matter what you choose, you survive, and then at the end, it's going to go, well, you're here, but you're not actually you, and so on and so forth. So, life on Mars turns out to not be a bed of roses. In fact, two strange viruses have evolved on the planet, which are causing a lot of problems. The first destroys body parts. Fortunately, medical science is very advanced, which means people can simply be given artificial limbs and organs as required. You've been hit pretty hard by this virus. In fact, almost your entire body is now made up of artificial parts. However, there exists a second virus that attacks the brain. It's peculiarly nasty in that it doesn't destroy the brain, rather it messes with the neural pathways, leading to loss of memory and also a change in personality traits. One person who has had the virus had been a successful author. Now he can't write a word, but he's become rather good at exotic dancing. It is indeed an odd virus. Unfortunately, you have carelessly managed to catch the virus. Medics can't get around the virus by replacing pieces of the brain with advanced forms of can get around the virus by replacing pieces of the brain with advanced forms of silicon chip. In your case, they would have to do this to almost all of your brain, but trials show that you can be sure the result will be total preservation of your memories, personality traits, beliefs, and so on. And a person is able to carry on living a normal life as well. Normal. The alternative is to succumb to the virus with consequent loss of memory and a change in character. You must make the choice which you think will give yourself, underlined self, the biggest chance of surviving. So I think that one's quite clear. I find that one easier for some reason, even though it's not really that different to the last one, really.
No, but the last one talked about it in terms of physical makeup only. And this one sort of gets back to the distinction between person and man, like you said before, the lock distinction.
Yeah.
If you have the same body, but you forget everything about you, are you still you?
Yeah, exactly. It's like we say with someone who has got severe Alzheimer's, for example. We will say it's not them there anymore. Now I miss them. Uh, I even miss my nana now, and she's still there, but she's not there. I mean, she is
Yeah.
there sometimes as well. And that's the weirdest thing about it. So yeah. Uh, so coming back. Philip, you're here to stay. Thank you. I mean, if I were you, I'd probably choose Stephen Law, but thank you. It means a lot.
It does.
um, so no one's given their feedback on this one yet. I will say I'm going to take the silicon. I mean, I don't think
Yeah.
that there's
Cool.
anything anyone could say in regards to that one that could actually change my mind either. I actually like the idea of being quite roboticized as well. The only thing that would be maybe annoying about that is if you lose physical sensations. Because, physical sensations are quite a pleasure. And also eating. But then it's more tasting that's the pleasure there rather than just
Yeah.
eating. So if I still have my sensations, I'd hope I'd still have my sensations anyway. If not, I'm just going to become a die-hard gaming nerd. Um, especially with
Imagine how good you'd be.
yeah, super fast reflexes. Could you even just plug yourself in and go into that world and become your favorite characters? You got silicon brain, everything. It's probably not what this is actually asking, though.
But it's a cool thought experiment nonetheless.
If you could plug yourself directly into your brain and become that character, are you still you?
Not for the time. If you became that character wholly engulfed in it, not for the time that you're plugged in.
What if you pick up some of their traits, but you've still got remnants of you? So you've still got your own thought processes, but you've also got their instincts layered on top of you.
I'd say you were still you because we change our instincts and our ideas as we go along anyway.
But yeah, I suppose if the core part of you is still there, then yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I've gone with I'll take the silicon as well.
yeah. Leon says, "Can we repeat the example?" Oh, the question. So essentially, it's you've got this virus. It's attacked your brain. You have two options. One is you succumb to the virus with a consequent loss of memory, which will then change your character, um, and or you can have silicon chips in your brain, like replacing your brain but maintaining your memory. So essentially, most of your brain will become an artificial brain, but you will still have your same memories and things like that as before. Although you could argue that maybe you'd have slightly faster thinking, although it doesn't specify that there. So it says take it as read, but I would assume that you'd almost it would be an upgrade. So you'd maintain everything of yourself, but you'd almost be you 2.0. Um, so yeah, I think we're both in agreement on the silicon there. That one was more cut and dry for me. Oh, have I lost you, Dave? I have. I've lost Dave. Dave's not here. Yeah, Leon goes silicon as well. So at the moment, the three of us who are answering these questions are all on the same page, um, literally as well. You're back in the room, Dave.
I am sorry about that. It just completely disconnected me from the net.
Oh, really? Uh, oh no, I think you've gone again. I think you're having network issues tonight. I'm going to click through to the next one. uh, and you're back again, I think, Dave. Your Wi-Fi going crazy again?
Yeah.
You
Yeah, it
move,
looks like it.
sit on the stairs, maybe.
I'm too lazy to sit up. That's why I come up here and lie down.
Which is funny because I'm actually quite looking forward to when we can finally move and I have my study and I can get the riser desk on so I can actually stand up whilst we do the streams again. I get far too uncomfortable and I'm always shifting in the chair and I yeah. Anyway, so we're on to scenario 3. The operation was successful. What's more, a few years later, advances in technology enabled scientists to perform a similar operation, which gave you back an organic brain and body. So now you're fully human again. Hurrah! No, I don't want to be fully human again. Die or freeze. Strange as it may seem, it has been discovered that reincarnation of a sort does actually occur. It seems there is some immaterial part, call it a soul, in all human beings. On death, hang on, if there's a soul, that might change my first answer because can the soul survive being transported?
Yeah.
But you don't know until you get to this point. Um, but yes, okay. On death, it leaves your body and enters the body of a newborn animal or human. It does not take memory with it, of course, for if it did, we'd have known this were true already. It is thought that it may have some effect in determining one's character, but given the evidence for the strong influence of genes and upbringing, this effect is thought to be relatively small. Even stranger than the fact of reincarnation, it seems that our souls die if stored below freezing point for longer than a week. These facts are vital to the last choice you must make. You are very ill, but scientists have found a cure for the disease you have. Further, they have developed a technique to deep freeze humans, enable them to be revived later with their memories and character intact. You have two choices. The first choice is to let the disease take its toll. Your body will die, but your soul will live on. The second choice is to be deep frozen, then thawed and cured later. This will destroy your soul and only has a 30% chance of success. That is, there's a 70% chance that the thawing and curing will not work. You must make the choice you think that will give yourself the biggest chance of surviving. So it's said the soul only has a minor influence there, hasn't it?
Yeah, this one's kind of confusing. Like, is it a soul that is us?
Yeah. I mean, what happens if the soul dies and the body lives on?
Yeah. I mean, are we lost?
Yeah, I mean, did you watch Supernatural?
Only up to about season 6.
Ah, fair. Well, I don't think you got there then. So there was a point where um there were sometimes people who had lost their souls. I think Sam came back from hell without a soul at one point, and occasionally different people had different souls. And the one thing that they couldn't necessarily do was sort of tell right from wrong. But some of them could cognitively work it out and know what they should do, even if they didn't care. They were no one know. Old me would have done this. Others became incredibly immoral, um, and also they didn't sleep. If you don't have a soul, you don't sleep. You don't need it, which I thought was really odd. Um,
Okay, that explains my insomnia.
shit, you and me both. My mum used to have the house really, really cold, so maybe that's it. My soul just died in childhood. um, yeah, I mean, I think this one is a bit more complicated just because of that. It doesn't tell us the how much of us we would still be if we survived. And there's only a
Well,
30% chance of survival as well.
the fact that we don't take our memories with us makes me think that the reincarnation isn't a reincarnation of us. It's
No.
just like the soul is just some pointless, immaterial part of us because if the soul dies and we live on
And we've
after
still got
being
all of our memories.
frozen, yeah, I'm going to go with freeze me, to be honest.
Yeah, that's the way I was leaning at the start. In fact,
Because this,
just so you can see, I have freeze down there. Like,
yeah,
I did think that we were going to be doing the whole freeze thing, but yeah,
yeah, the soul doesn't seem to add anything to the equation. It's just an immaterial part of us. But what? What?
yeah. I mean, you could make this. It's almost like when you die, there's some energy that turns to the earth and grass grows out of it. There you go. That's reincarnation. you know, it
Yeah.
seems as pointful as that, except obviously it's going into another person. Um,
But
but
what does it do?
yeah, a
Yeah.
mild influence on character, but genetics
Yeah. That.
and everything takes its toll. Genetics and upbringing. So,
Yeah. It
uh,
seems to me that if you let yourself die, you will be lost because all your memories are gone, all your personality traits are gone. At least with freezing, you might die, but if it is successful, you will still continue on even if you have no soul.
yeah.
And it feels like the soul does nothing anyway, so fuck it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, and is anyone in the chat going to try and change my answer? Because I've started with freeze and we've agreed on freeze. Philip says, I'll step in the freezer, I think. So there you go.
Yeah,
Um, Follows it up with, I think the term soul carries a lot of baggage and assumptions that might not be present in this scenario. Um, I'll agree with
I
you.
agree. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's why I was just discussing that it doesn't seem to be anything in this scenario. It's just some immaterial part that is something.
Hmm. Uh, Leon's going for freezing as well. So it looks like throughout this, we've all been on the same page. Uh, so let's see what it says. So these answers. Oh, am I male or female? Is this about what I want to be, or? um, how old am I? Oh, I'm still just in that bracket. That's good. I get really upset when they have the other bracket when it sort of goes, 37 to whatever, and I'm just like, oh, what's my religion? None.
Streaming.
Yeah. Congratulations, you have survived.
Nice.
You chose one. It's the teleporter for me. Two, I'll take the silicone, thanks. Round three, freeze me now. There are basically three kinds of things that could be required for the continued existence of yourself. One is bodily continuity, which may be required that only the parts of the body stay in existence, i.e., the brain. Another is psychological continuity. Oh, why am I having so much trouble with words tonight? Which requires the continuance of your consciousness, by which is meant your thoughts, ideas, memories, plans, beliefs, and so on. The third possibility is the continued existence of some kind of immaterial part of you, which might be called the soul. Of course, it may be the case that the combination of one or more types of these continuity is required for you to survive. Your choices are consistent with the theory known as psychological reductionism. On this view, all that is required for the continued existence of the self is psychological continuity. Sorry. Your three choices show that this is what you see as central to your sense of self, not any attachment to particular substance, be it your body, brain, or soul. However, some would say that you have not survived at all, but fallen foul of a terrible error. In the transporter case, for example, it was really you. Was it really you that travelled to Mars, or is it more correct to say that there is a clone or copy of you that made it to Mars while you were destroyed? And that's exactly what we said with it as well.
Yeah.
Um, because we don't know in that regard. The person has definitely survived, but is it a copy of the person that is the person? And that's the brain bit that goes. "Ugh."
And then you can bring in sort of the second ship of Theseus or the Riker scenario.
Yeah, exactly. Or what was the one with Ant-Man? I've forgotten his name now as well. See,
I
my
can't
brain is
remember, but it was
deteriorating.
brilliant.
Yeah,
And it
Netflix
is
series.
basically this.
Yeah, well, yeah, it is. It's the clone problem, which is basically the transporter problem.
Something
Um,
like Living Well or
living
something
with
like that.
yourself.
That's it.
Yes. Um, yeah, that was really good.
Yeah.
So in that one, if you're not aware, essentially he goes in to have this, operation to make him feel rejuvenated, and then all of a sudden he wakes up in the forest, in a bag, and he goes home to find that he is at home already. Uh, Spoilers.
Well, it
uh,
is the first episode that all that comes out.
it is, yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the whole premise for the show,
Yeah.
and it's which him is him. Um, yeah, and it's really entertaining to watch because obviously there's a difference between the two of them as well. The clone is actually a sort of a younger version of himself, a more improved version of himself in certain regards, but it's caused changes in personality, and his partner doesn't necessarily like all of those changes. Some of them are great, and some of them are just like, well, no, I prefer it when you do this dumb shit because actually that's one of the things that gelled us together. Now you're a bit more serious and motivated, which is great in some respects, but in others, it's just like, you know, the chemistry we had isn't there and all that sort of thing.
And it's got Paul Rudd, who's just fucking fantastic in everything.
Paul Rudd, that's his name. Yes, who hasn't aged a day in the last 30 years. So, only 18% actually agree with us, Dave.
There's more people that need to study philosophy then.
Yeah, well, everybody in the chat was agreeing. So we were
Yeah.
all on the same page. But only 18% of people who do this. So the trip to Mars is basically 50-50. The virus response.
That's
Uh,
where the
well,
difference is mostly.
well, we took that as well. We took the silicon. So
Oh
most people
yeah.
agree with us on that. But this is the bit where they change. It's the bit around the
Yeah.
soul.
Sorry, I misread the bottom two on the virus response.
Yeah, right. um, but this, yeah. So obviously, I mean, there is that bit there. I mean, there, obviously, it's a 50-50 split. There's a few people that, but then this is the bit. So obviously, I reckon that there are probably more religious people who have taken this test then, who believe in the soul, which is why they've gone the soul is more important.
Yeah, and something like what Philip said, where using that terminology brings with it a lot of sort of prefabricated ideas and presuppositions.
Yeah.
And, for the religious, the soul is you,
Yes. Yeah.
like you say.
Yeah. Even though it says take these questions as written, and it basically said describe the soul as an immaterial part of you that does nothing.
Yeah.
it might influence your personality a little bit, but that's it. But I think you're right. They'd have taken in. They wouldn't have listened to that. They'd have gone, well, no, the soul is me, as you
Yeah.
said. So, guys, how does that feel to be part of the 18% that are all on the same path?
The right path.
Leon, you found it more confusing than the discussion on ethics. um, Lord Bryant says baggage is subjective to me, in my view. Like when people bring up baggage, what do you mean by that? So what we're talking about by baggage in that is we're not necessarily talking like emotional baggage. We're just talking about preconceived notions. So they describe the soul in a certain way as an immaterial part of you that might have a minor influence on your personality. No memories or anything like that gets transported to you. But if you're someone that believes in the soul and believes that you go to some sort of afterlife and that entire soul is you and your memories do get transported with it, they are going to go and think that anyway. They're not going to be able to detach themselves from their baggage or their preconceived notion of what the soul is. For people like us who don't believe in the soul, them throwing in the suggestion of what the soul is quite easy for us to take. If they'd have changed the question and gone, your memories would have gone with the soul and they'd have gone into this new life and influenced it, we'd have probably changed our opinion on it a little bit. But the fact that it didn't have that there meant that we went, well, what's the point of it then?
Yeah. That was an interesting one.
It
I like
was.
stuff on identity.
Yeah, identity's really interesting and somewhat confusing at times as well. Because, to be honest, as with a lot of things in philosophy, you're sat there going, "Oh shit!" But could it be? But what if?
Yeah.
Which is why I really enjoy philosophy, because it gets you really sort of thinking and twisting yourself into knots. But sometimes it can go on too long, and you wake up at 3 a.m. covered in sweat. Shit! It must be this.
Welcome to my master's degree.
Right. So I said we were going to do two tonight, didn't I?
Yeah.
Uh, so philosophical health test.
Yeah, that one seems kind of weird to me. Oh, it's only 5 minutes.
But 30 statements. It's not going to take us 5 minutes.
No, definitely not.
I mean, shit, we go, all right, we're only going to do a short stream tonight and it takes 2 hours.
Yeah, true.
Right. Folks, I don't know if you're going to put in the questions along with us, because you might actually have different answers to this one, because there's 30 different statements. But they're agree disagree statements. So if you want to join us and doing this particular one, I tell you what, I'll make it really easy, and I'm going to copy the link and I'm going to put it in the chat for you all. And if you want to do it along with us, and if you get different answers, I mean, if you agree with everything that I say, which I doubt you will, then you don't need to tell us any differently. But it'd be really interesting if you folks took the test as well.
Yeah.
Right. Sorry. Oh, I usually mute when I do that. I forgot. Philosophical health check. The PHC will only take about 5 minutes of your time. We are going to present you with 30 statements. All you've got to do is indicate whether you agree or disagree with each statement. If you are not sure, then select the response that is closest to your opinion, and then take this into account at the analysis stage. Okay, so in that regard, I will put a star next to mine if I'm not sure, and a second star if I'm still not sure after the deliberation. You should note that the PHC does not judge whether your responses are right or wrong. The important thing is to simply respond as honestly as possible. Each statement is carefully worded, so you need to pay at least a little bit of attention. I mean, maybe I shouldn't do this one, Dave. I've got ADHD. I can't pay attention to anything.
I'm here to help you pay attention.
Squirrel.
What? Where?
There are no objective standards. Moral judgments are merely expressions of. I mean, you all know where I am with this one. The
Yeah.
expression of values of particular cultures. So, folks out there, are there no objective moral standards? I mean, it's obvious from all the posts and conversations I've had and videos that we've done and my entire thing about morality and misconceptions. It's something I feel quite strongly about. I mean, I still don't know everything about morality, far from it, but it's one of the few subjects within philosophy that I feel somewhat competent with. Above average understanding, maybe, is where I'd go. No way could I pass a proper exam on it, but above average understanding. But that's only because it's relative in that regard that most people have no real understanding and make
You've had a
statements.
reasonably good teacher.
I have. I have, very much so. Yeah. And I don't come out with things like a rock falling on your head and hurting you or killing you is immoral.
No. That's because you're smart.
Right. So no comments in the chat on this one yet, so I'm just going to say what I think. I disagree. I believe there are objective moral standards. Because there are objective moral frameworks and we can treat morality objectively, etc., etc. I don't think I really need to go into any more detail on that, and I think you're probably in the same boat there, aren't you, Dave?
Yeah. Sorry, I just kind of got confused because it kind of looked like you clicked agree, but it's just me not reading it properly.
Maybe my dyslexia is catching.
No, I'm just old.
Oh, apparently the link isn't showing up for Leon in the live chat.
It showed up on my Pi.
Interesting. I'll tell you what, I will send it to Discord for you. There you go. I've posted as the other me. Ah, the live chat channel on Discord. Okay, maybe it didn't send it through there. It should have gone through there now. Let me quickly check Discord for you, and if it hasn't actually gone into there, let's have a quick. Yeah, it should have gone in there. I can see it in there now. Is that all right for you? Right. Anyway, I think we're all working on that front. Good, 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 good. So, I think that one's quite cut and dry for me. I'm going to assume everyone else is in a similar position on that one. Statement 2. So long as they do not harm others, individuals should be free to pursue their own ends.
Yeah, I can go with that.
Yeah, I've got to agree on that one too. The only caveat would be if something they do to then has a consequence of harm, but then that would say that actually, no, we're talking about there would be no harm no matter how far it's gone down the line consequentialistly. So, yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah.
I think that one's quite cut and dry as well. People should not journey by car if they can walk, cycle, or take train instead. I mean, I mean that's me anyway because I don't have a license. I do
Neither do
own
I.
I do own a car. I don't drive it for the life, but I own it. um, but I would agree with that anyway. I think far too much is done by car, but I do understand there are certain places in the world, like for example, when I lived in America, everything was so far away. I mean, going to your local shop from where we lived was sort of 30-40 minute drive away, and there was no public transport or anything like that. So I can understand there are places where you need a car, but I have always lived in places where the public transport, okay, might be unreliable, but is quite good, really. There's always been an option, and I always used to move close to where I work as well, so that I could walk to. Even where I work now, it's an hour and a half. Well, actually, I work in here right now because of the pandemic, but it was an hour and a half walk home. But the wife would drop me off in the morning, and I'd walk back because it was a nice bit of exercise and all that. It's just I couldn't handle that hour and a half walk in the morning as well. um, so yeah, I would definitely agree. And the reason I didn't take the train is because the train service to that particular station was terrible. Even though it was only a 5 to 10 minute car journey, it was about an hour train journey.
Bloody hell.
Yeah, just the times it would go. Unless I decided to go and be at work sort of an hour and a half early, at which point the trains were really good at that time, but there was just a disconnect between the changes, and yeah. Um, so I agree on that
Yeah.
one too. So there, obviously, as I said, there are times when you know if the distance is massive or the time is massive versus doing it. There's a caveat. What's everyone saying in Le Chat? Yeah, Philip agrees too. Cool. I'm going to assume you do as well, Leon. uh, and Rusty says, "But if I'm doing a line of cocaine, am I just hurting myself?" Um, so this is on the previous question. Yeah, the question was about harming others. I think if you're only harming yourself, then it doesn't necessarily matter. There is an argument to be made that, if you end up being an addict, you would be causing harm to others. Or, sorry?
Um, you could go one step further and go to the actual process of getting the cocaine to you, which usually involves some kind of slavery, gang violence. So by taking the cocaine and promoting the idea that it should be sold, you're causing harm.
Yeah. But in the previous question, it said no harm would be caused. So we'd have to assume that in that situation where you're getting the cocaine, that you're getting it from a local source and none of that harm is going on.
If no harm is being caused, it
Yeah.
said.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
exactly.
the cocaine is causing the harm, so
Yeah, yeah.
it's not saying assume that all your pursuits aren't causing harm. It's
Hmm.
just saying that if those pursuits don't cause harm,
Yeah. So there you go. Next time you're thinking of doing a line of cocaine, check its
come buy it
lineage.
from me.
Yeah, makes it himself.
This is why it should be legalized and done by the government.
Yeah, it could be taxed to fuck as well, and it would pay for
Yeah,
all rehab and everything, and so much more. I mean, you look at cigarettes; they're taxed to the point where they more than pay for their own treatment if they get cancer.
yeah.
Um, and the same could be said with drugs. And it would be cleaner, purer, and yeah,
It would
uh,
also get rid of some of that. Ooh, I'm a bad boy. I'm taking drugs. It
yeah,
would remove that element.
yeah, yeah. There you go. Legalize it all.
Yeah,
It's always wrong to take another person's life. So depends what it means by wrong there.
I would just go with the moral wrong.
See, what about in a situation which I would regard as permissible in the sense that, say, you're saving people's lives. Say you've got an attacker coming in, you're trying to save the life, but the only way to save these people's lives, these children's, these innocent lives, is to kill that person. I would say it's permissible, but I wouldn't say that it was good.
Yeah. Um, you could go that route. Yeah, but I would say, um, imagine a woman about to be attacked by somebody like Ted Bundy, and she manages to stick a knife up through the bottom of his chin or into his throat and kill him. I wouldn't say she's behaved wrong or immoral.
No, no, no. I wouldn't say it was immoral. I'd say that that's a justified action. Um,
Yeah.
that's sort of what I was trying to get to. Well, but that's what I'm saying. That's why I say it's permissible, but I'd still think there is something about killing that is never right at the same
Yeah.
time. But it's not necessarily wrong either. That's why I say it's permissible. It's not necessarily right, but it's the best course of action.
Yeah. You could go with the whole sanctity of humans thing and, everybody deserves to live and all that kind of stuff. And say, yeah, it's wrong to kill somebody, but sometimes we have to.
Yeah. Which is why I'm a little bit stuck. I mean, at the moment, I mean, I've written down disagree, but there is a little bit of uncertainty around the level of wrong in it because I like the examples that you gave. I think it's a justified action, and if it's a justified action, is it really wrong?
Yeah, see, I'll go with disagree because I think there are times where it's right to take another person's life.
Hmm.
Like, imagine if you could kill the driver of a train full of Jews in World War II and free them. It would be right to kill that guard and free the people.
Just following orders, man.
I think the
So,
Nuremberg trial sorted that one out.
yeah, that was the callback. I'm pretty sure that we brought that up in one of our podcasts. So, to
Yeah, I
be
think we
honest,
did.
I don't think anybody who currently watches us has probably checked out the podcast. So that callback is so tenuous. Only we got it. But yeah, I mean that's where I'm at. I'm at the disagree stage. That's what I wrote down. But there is just that bit of if it's the only option, then I guess you have to go with the all implies can. and if you can't do it another way, then there is no moral wrong there.
Yeah.
So I'm going to affirm my answer of disagree. Before we move on, I'm just going to quickly check the chat. Um, no comments on this particular one as of yet. So I'm going to assume that both Philip and Leon are there filling it in. Oh, Leon's gone too fast answering the questions and is already on 7.
Oh, okay.
Well done. Wait for us. I mean, how many of the questions so far do you think you might have changed your answer on as well? You know, like, have you gone, oh crap, I should have said that after all? Uh, so, anyway, oh, hang on, wrong window. There we go, over this side. Number 5. The right to life is so fundamental that financial considerations are irrelevant in any effort to save lives. I feel that one's kind of cut and dry. There are caveats, I guess. Like what they
Can it
mean.
be afforded?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think financial considerations are relevant, but I don't think that there should be financial considerations that come down to the people. I think
Yeah.
that healthcare should be completely free for everyone around the world, in every culture, every country. And that is why I think it's right. I don't think that it should be, well, you need to pay for this, and we go, well, we've got no money. Well, that's your fault, sort of thing. I think
Yeah.
that's not how I'm approaching this conversation. So I would say yes, the right to life is so fundamental that financial considerations are irrelevant because healthcare should be free.
Yeah.
Number 6, voluntary euthanasia should remain illegal. I mean, God, I think we've had enough conversations about this recently as well that I think we're all going to be on the same page and go, disagree?
Yeah.
The only fear is if it gets abused somehow. But that's why,
Yeah.
even with euthanasia, you have to be compos mentis, which is why someone who has Alzheimer's um, can't actually say, no, it's my time, I want to go now, because you're not cognitively able enough to be able to say, which is kind of gutting.
Yeah. I mean, if it's a problem with this system, that's not necessarily a problem with voluntary euthanasia.
Yeah,
It's a problem with the system that needs to be fixed.
yep, I agree with you. Homosexuality is wrong because it's unnatural. I mean, it's not unnatural and it's not wrong.
Yeah.
So, as I'm disagreeing with two elements, do I then need to?
Go
I mean,
back, go back in the browser and click it again.
yeah. I mean, it's been observed. I mean, the Wikipedia page says in over 450 other creatures out there in the natural world, but actually, it's. I was reading a study published much more recent than the data in Wikipedia, and it's now over 1,000 different creatures have demonstrated homosexual traits. So it's definitely not unnatural, and even if it was unnatural, it's still not wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't write down my answer, but I mean, you saw what I put down anyway.
Yeah, it was a pretty quick decision.
Yeah. um, Number 8. It's quite reasonable to believe in the existence of a thing without even the possibility of evidence for its existence. Quite reasonable. Quite. I suppose considering the channel we are, we're probably all in a very, 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 very similar. So sorry, coming back to the chat. Sorry, I haven't been reading out your responses there. My responses were so quick, I didn't give you guys the time to answer. So Leon disagrees on the last couple. Um, I suppose especially you would on the last one. Yeah, that's why you've done a huge disagree, and LB disagreed on that one as well. Um, so, oh, calling back. LB's actually had a question before we answer. Carry on with this. Hopefully, if someone willingly gets hurt for others' entertainment, is that considered harm? I mean, they consented to it after all, like the wrestlers. Um, so it's definitely not suffering in the sense. If you're getting pleasure out of the harm, or you're getting a benefit out of the harm, um, you're, as you say, there's a consent there. It's not an immoral harm. You might think that some people enjoy really rough sex. Again, there might be an element of pain, but it's pleasure pain rather than pain. So, no, I agree with what you're saying there, LB. Yeah, I wouldn't consider it harm in the moral harm sense. So yeah, we're on the same page with
The
that one as well.
consent, yeah, the consent thing makes all the difference.
Yeah. Um. So, on this one, is it quite reasonable to believe in the existence of a thing without even the possibility of evidence for its existence? See, I'd say disagree in general, but I think you could have good arguments at the same time. Um, I think, 80-20 rule, I would disagree that it's quite reasonable to believe in the existence of a thing without even the possibility of evidence. Um, but I think
Yeah,
that.
and it would.
Sorry, go.
Sorry, I was just going to say it really depends on what they mean by possibility of evidence as well. Like, if there's no arguments for it, there's no evidence for it, there's just this idea that it might exist. I'm not sure I call it reasonable.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, Leon says it depends on how they define evidence here, which is akin to what you just said, and
Yeah,
it's right. I mean, I would I would group the arguments and things like that in with that sort of evidence, um, because an argument can be indicative, and what is evidence? Something indicative of a conclusion. So, an argument is a form of evidence. It's not necessarily strong evidence,
depends on
but
the argument.
yes, but I said necessarily. um, but yeah, if there if we're going to the point where there isn't even a coherent argument, then it's definitely disagree. If
Yeah,
not, then it's a sort of 80-20 on whether it's a disagree.
yeah,
The possession of drugs for personal use should be decriminalized.
yes,
um, I would agree as well. Um, I mean, we just had that conversation about how they should all be legalized. So we're having a conversation about it being decriminalized. Yes, completely decriminalized, though, to the point where they are legalized and regulated. But even
yeah,
then, if it's just Percy, there shouldn't be anything. Um, Unfortunately, depending on the drug, what qualifies as personal use can change massively. Um,
yeah,
Sometimes it can depend on the way it's even bagged. Like, someone
yep,
can be walking in with a couple of baggies that have eights in because the person they bought it off had that, and they say, "Well, no, it's in different bags, so therefore, you were gonna supply that." And like, no, I literally just bought it that way.
yeah,
But you could have, say, I don't know if the laws changed, but as a teenager, someone I knew had an ounce on them, but because it was all wrapped up, they didn't get it. It got taken, but they were like, right, because it is all in one, we'll allow it. If it was any more than that, then you'd be done for intent to supply. Um, but yeah, so yeah, equally, someone with two eights.
I think the cops just didn't want to write it up and wanted free drugs.
Yeah. Actually, that reminds me, when I was about 15, 16 years old, I was around someone's house and having a smoke with someone. And there was a guy there, and it got onto the conversation of what we did for work. And it turned out that this guy was a police officer. And I just looked at him and went, "Should you really be doing that?" He was like, "Should you?" uh, um, so yeah, no answers on this particular one, but we're in agreement. So number 10, there exists an all-powerful, loving, and good God. Um, I think that's obvious how we are going to answer this one as well. I'm just going to put my answer in. Um, uh, yeah, I think everyone who's on the stream right now, I uh, know all of your ontological positions, and even though there's a deist with us, I don't think that you think that it's an all-powerful, loving, and good God, do you? In your deist perspective. So, in that regard,
uh,
I think. Sorry.
Also, isn't Leon an agnostic? So shouldn't there be a not sure option for people like that?
That's why he was saying 10 is not fair to me. Yeah, I understand now. Um, that is talking about the omni deity. So, are you unsure about that one as well? Because I mean, you could, for example, Kristen. She is a local atheist in regards to the omni deity, any omni deity, but globally agnostic. So believes the Abrahamic deity does not exist, but is agnostic towards a more generalistic style of deity. So, in your position, Leon, what do you think about, say, the Christian God or the Muslim God, which I know is the same one, but they might disagree on that. uh, but think about that in your answer for the all-powerful, loving, and good God, and then think about how you might feel about a more generalistic state of God in that regard. LB's come back. I think he is powerful, but that's it. Loving and good add nothing but humanization to God's existence. Me and Pandeist, PD, were speaking of this the other day. So there you go. So in that regard, like LB, even as a deist, you would disagree on this particular question. So, Leon, does that help you answer it? Think about the Abrahamic deity and think about whether you think that one exists or not, even if you're agnostic towards the others. Hopefully, that's helped you answer it. If not, Dave and I can have a conversation with you after the stream at some point, and you'll then be able to answer this question. The Second World War was a just war. I don't think there needs to be any deliberation on that, does there?
uh, I go the opposite way. I
Really?
go with the idea that it was a just war, yeah.
Well, it was just to step in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
What just war means is that
Yeah. No.
um,
I remember. I remember my teenage years and going through this in school. You're right. I was going. The instigation was unjust, but it's a just war isn't about the instigation.
no, it's about the retaliation.
Yeah. Um. So because the instigation was unjust, the war itself was actually just. So that was my error on forgetting what a just war actually was.
It'd be an interesting topic to stream on, actually. I'd need to go through Waltzer again and Jeff McMahon, but yeah, it'd be interesting to do a stream on Just War.
My buddy Ben, who's the psychotherapist, he loves the World Wars as well. I know he's been generally unavailable when we've tried to get him on to do anything on psychology, but maybe he'd come on and have a chat about that because I mean, sometimes when he talks about it, things come up in games or movies or anything like that, blows my mind by all the stuff he knows. And I'm just like, yeah, hit the bad.
Well, here's one for a Just War question, just to get people thinking about it. Was it wrong for the German soldiers to shoot back at the Allied forces who were firing at them? Because they shouldn't have been involved and they were committing grievous harms. So it's not really self defense. This is Jeff McMahon's position. They're not morally It's not morally permissible for the Germans to fire back because they're the bad guys.
I'd agree with that. There is the
But
the
also, is
personal
there the right
state.
to self defense?
Yeah, well, I was just say there is the personal side of it where you want to survive, but kill your commanding officer and desert.
Yeah.
you know, I'm just following
But
orders. Yeah, whatever.
yeah. Um, those are the sort of questions asked in like just war theory and stuff.
Yeah. So apart from my faux pas, forgetting what a just war actually meant, um, we are in agreement on that one as well. I suppose I should check with the chat, and I'm sure everybody's making fun of me getting that completely wrong. and deserved. um, no one's answered it. Good. Maybe they didn't hear. We'll pretend it never happened, Dave.
Okay.
It's all right. I'm a big boy. I can own up to my mistakes. Um, number 12. Having made a choice, it is always possible that one might have chosen otherwise. I mean, we've had this conversation a lot around morality, haven't we?
Yeah.
We've also had this conversation around determinism. So, if hard determinism is true, then that's the only choice you could have ever made.
Okay. I do have a counter for that one though.
Yeah.
Consider the way our brain works and
Mm-hmm.
memory recall and all that influences our choices. Is it possible that our memory recall would be slightly different if we go back in time? Just simply because of the way it works?
So, I mean, I'm not a hard determinist anyway.
No.
um, and I'd have to say I don't know on that one. I mean, I did an article on free will and determinism, and that was the objection that I had to my own compatibilist stance, is the fact that I don't know if we would or we wouldn't.
Yeah.
I think the universe is mostly deterministic, but I don't think physical determinism necessarily entails psychological determinism.
Yeah.
I think there's an X factor to my brain, to everyone's brain. And sometimes you can do things that, the domino should have fallen that way, but suddenly this one just jumps out that way. And I think that there is more choices when you're younger as well, when you've got less knowledge and less experience.
And the neural pathways are less formed, and
Exactly. But I think as you get older, especially with certain choices, there are lots of subconscious minor choices that you would always make as well.
yeah,
So my answer on this one is that I disagree, because I think there is a point where certain choices are determined, but I don't think all choices are.
yeah. See, I go with this, even though I'm a compatibilist. I go with disagree with this one, but there might be occasions where I would agree. But it's, like you were saying with the 80-20 rule.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know enough about how the brain works to be able to formulate a good argument against the idea that we could, we could have chosen otherwise.
Well, I mean, I was having a conversation
For the idea.
with Luke, and even the really really the tests that show that choices are made before we make them consciously. It's only that only actually evidences really really minor choices.
Yeah.
More complex choice, there is a conscious deliberation going on back and forth. It doesn't come instantly from the subconscious. So there is a conscious deliberation going on. It may have causal factors like your knowledge and experience and things like that, but I mean, how many times have you been stuck in a choice and you're going back and forth between this and, oh, should I? Um, there isn't. I don't think there is enough information or evidence to support a definitive idea of hard determinism or some form of compatibilist free will. I think there is enough information to say libertarian free will is basically impossible.
Yeah.
But I think there is. I lean towards compatibilism, but I think there is enough arguments either side to say, well, maybe.
Well, now that I've finished all my assignments and pretty much caught up, I'm going to spend the weekend working on that philosophy of mind stream that I said I was going to do.
Oh yeah.
And that we'll discuss whether mental states can sort of interact with the actual physical brain states, or is it a one-way
Hmm.
system?
Yeah, yeah. I can't wait for that one.
Yeah. And I'll
Yeah,
try and make some slides and stuff to look at.
yeah, awesome. Yeah, I'm really excited. Yay! I get to learn more, and I don't have to pay huge tuition fees to learn it.
Yeah. That's what I'm here for. I've already spent the money. Might as well get the most out of it.
Right. So, I wonder what the chat's saying on this one. See. Oh, hey Josiah, nice to see you here. Um, so, I agree. I don't know what. Oh, Leon said I don't know what a just war is either. Thank you. I mean, I did know what a just war was. It's just the fact that I got confused. I got it the wrong way round. But disagree. Uh,
I will put together a stream on it though for Lord Bryant.
yeah. So, LB says I don't know. I think maybe agree. I think I go with agree, but since I'm a compatibilist, um, is it good for me to shoot this shot of bourbon?
Leon.
Sorry.
Sorry, I meant for Leon.
Oh
Put
right,
the
yeah.
just more. Yeah, sorry, it just popped into my brain.
um, Interestingly enough, Rusty, we had this conversation about drinking alcohol, and I said that I think that it's largely an amoral action. I think too much alcohol could be immoral. Um, but Martain actually convinced me that a shot or two of bourbon or whatever you're drinking could be considered moral because actually it has an overall positive effect on your emotional and psychological well-being and can affect the way you interact with with other people in a more positive way. So there could be an argument for a couple of drinks actually being moral, although I would default as general it is amoral. Um, and I would say too much would be could be not would be could be immoral because you could do things that destroy property and steal things and all of that because when you're drunk there is part of you that goes into complete caveman mode. But there you go. um
Yeah. And if you know it's going to do that to you and you still choose to drink, then you are definitely committing an immoral action.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah, I suppose you could say the first time you got drunk, if you didn't know that that was going to happen, then there was no intent there. But
Yeah.
if you've done it and you know that that's how you get, uh, and you do it again, you've chosen to act that way.
Yeah.
So I think Philip and Leon both disagreed with this one as well. Um, but LB, I mean, I'm a compatibilist too, but I still think there are some choices that are more locked in. Um, I mean, as this thing said, there's no right or wrong answer necessarily. Um, I
There's
think,
great philosophers still discussing this. So if
yeah,
they can't figure it out, God help us.
yeah. It's not always right to judge individuals solely on their merits. I mean, that one seems kind of obvious. So it makes me feel that I haven't fully understood the question. Um, so I mean, on this one, I'll just say that I've agreed with it because I don't think you should only judge someone on their positives. What I take from their merits, the good things that they've done. Um, because if if there was someone that happened to do loads of good in the world, give loads of money to charity and all sorts of that, but also owned a child porn ring, we should take that into the account.
Yeah, say a BBC presenter bringing kids' dreams, making kids' dreams come true, but also in his private life making their nightmares come true.
Yeah. Um, yeah. I think I'd almost go as far to say it's never right to judge individuals solely on their merits.
Well, another thing you could throw in here is how much of it is truly their merit, solely their merit,
Yeah,
because how they've been brought up, the support they've been given, the lack of support they've been given, all that comes into play as well.
yeah, I'm with you there. I think I'm gonna quickly check the chat. Um, Rusty keeps losing connection. Is it just your end? I think it might be Rusty. Has anyone else losing connection as well? If you are, I do apologize. Um, it looks like it's yeah. Philip says everything's okay his end as well. Sorry, dude. Um, Leon says I put agree. So the three of us agree. I'm going to assume Philip agrees as well. I can't tell what Rusty and Josiah and LB would say though, but I'm going to assume that you would also agree because I mean this one seems quite obvious. Um, so yeah, some of them obviously take a lot more thought. Um, Judgments about works of art are purely matters of taste. Well, what did we do a stream on not too long ago, Dave? See, it says judgments. It doesn't say personal judgments. It says judgments. And I think that is the key point there.
Yeah.
Um, so obviously, because we've done this stream on that, I think everybody is going to know my answer, uh, and it is disagree. And the reason it is disagree is, for example, uh, if you're judging a piece of abstract art as a piece of still life, you're judging it wrong because there is a standard for what makes abstract art abstract art. And saying, well, it doesn't look like a tree is completely irrelevant because you are actually judging it wrong. Now, your personal judgment of whether you like it or not, that is purely a matter of taste. I completely agree. And that's why there's no wrong about your personal preference. You know, what you like is what you like. But you should be able to objectively say, yes, for abstract art, that is a good bit of abstract art, and then go, but I don't like abstract art. I like still life, or whatever your preference happens to be. And I think,
Yeah.
yeah, so I think we'd be in agreement on that one.
I think we've done 2 streams on it, kind of. We did the horror of it all, and we've also done a stream basically on categories of art. Can art be objective? I think it was called.
Can beauty be
Oh,
objective?
beauty.
Was the stream. So we talked about beauty, and so we were saying, you could have a beautiful piece of abstract art that you didn't find beautiful yourself. You could have a
Yeah.
beautiful piece of metal, but not like metal. You could also
And
have a terrible piece of metal that you really like because it's got good depth and soul to it, but actually it sounds awful.
yeah. And I think we discussed these ideas in that Can Beauty Be Objective, didn't we?
We did, we did.
And if anybody wants to look into it further, check out Kendall Walton's Categories of Art. It's a paper that you can probably find quite easily.
Yeah, actually, more and more papers seem to be available on the internet. I think I don't know whether it's others putting it there or just philosophers putting them on things like academia.edu. And there was another one that I found the other day when I was looking up, that paper from Alexander Edwards or whatever it was when I was doing the etymology of atheism.
Yeah.
Um, I found that the full paper on another site, and it was just open for free. And there are so many more. When I've looked for some in the past, I haven't been able to find them anywhere. But I don't know whether they're. I'm grateful. I'm very grateful that these are all being given out for free.
Even if you can't find them for free, as long as you have the DOI number or the website address for the journal link, you can usually use Sci-Hub to grab it.
Oh, nice. Oh, wrong window. There we go. um, so number 15. We're halfway there. 5 minutes, my ass. On bodily death, a person continues to exist in a non-physical form. Well, I think that is really obvious for most of us here.
Especially considering the one we just did.
Yes. I don't think that one really needs any real deliberation.
But I can throw in something here.
Oh yeah.
You continue on in the memories of other people.
Ooh, yeah. I mean, if you did take that way, then you could argue that because, yeah, the mind, or at least the memory, is a non-physical thing. I'd say the mind is a non-physical thing as well. The brain isn't, but the mind is. Um,
Yeah.
but on
But
their bodily death, then you're no longer. And I don't think that's what the question's actually talking about, is it?
no, it's talking about you as a person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah.
You know
But
me, I just like to be a pain.
oh, it's the best kind of pain there is. um, Rusty actually has something to say on the last one. Art is representation of reality or life. interpretation, each to his own. So I mean, I agree that there is a personal interpretation, there is a personal judgment, there is also an objective standard. So I mean, you like your music. I remember you saying you like country and metal at some point. So if I was to give you a piece of trance or house, for example, and say, what do you think of this metal track? You'd go, that's fucking shit for metal, because it doesn't sound anything like metal. It might actually be good, a good trance or house track, but it would not be a good metal track, because there is a standard for what metal is, and there's a standard for what house is, and there's a standard. So that's how we go with that one. Um, right, Dave, I need a quick refill. You're right if I put us on Be Right Back for a quick sec.
Yeah, of course.
Cool. We're halfway through this, so I figured it's a good time to stop.
Yeah, and I
Right.
can close my drapes.
Cool. I'll catch you in a sec.
See you in a second.
It can only be attributable to human error.
Hello. Sorry about that.
Hello.
Hello. Luke, how you doing? Bearded Heretic, dude. You are not too late to the party. You missed the first quiz, and you've missed the first half of the second quiz. So you if you want to join in on doing any of the quizzes, then feel free to jump in. There's a link in the notes. We're currently on the philosophical health check. The first one, interestingly enough, though, that we were all in agreement with the three scenarios that were provided, and apparently that only matched 18% of people out there. Which I found very strange, because all of us were in agreement, everyone in the chat and Dave and me, and there was, even though we discussed different ways we could take it, there was no real need for the deliberation. We could have just all put in our answers and just got that. So, as Dave said, it's probably people who haven't thought much about philosophy taking that quiz, which is why it's so different. And also there was the fact that there was a question on the soul, and people bring baggage to that sort of question rather than taking the question as read. So, oh, hello Maverick, how you doing? What happened to Dawkins? Let's not go there right now.
Aye.
But it sounds like, he's kind of getting what he deserves.
Yep.
So, right, we are moving on. We are on question 16 of the philosophical health check. The government should not permit the sale of health treatments which have not been tested for efficacy and safety. I mean, that one seems obvious as well. I'm trying to think about what the curveball could be. The only thing that... Well, I mean, going back to what I said earlier, healthcare should be completely free anyway. But that aside, if it's going to be sold, then it should definitely have been tested.
Yeah, I think if you're going to claim that something has health benefits, you better damn well prove it.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why they shouldn't allow any homeopathic remedies to be sold at all.
Yeah, that should just be false advertising.
Yeah,
Trading standards should be involved in something like that.
completely agree. Yeah, I wonder if everyone else is going to be the same on that one. Long live the NHS. Yes, they need more funding though. Otherwise they're going to die.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to get enough people involved, and we'll do a 24-hour stream at some point. If we can get enough guests in to pop in and say hello and see if we can raise some money for the NHS.
I'd do that.
I'd love to do something like that. I could have random sessions where I get on the turntables, or even just have them on constantly. You can actually have a discussion with everybody, and I'll just mix. That way I will stop talking over you as well, Dave. You'll actually get some words out.
Okay, I've changed my mind.
Luke, you caught up to 16 already. See, I mean, that's how quick it can be. We've probably spent an hour doing a test that you can
would have
get
taken
through
5 minutes, like it said.
Yeah. You're right. The government does need to take responsibility. I completely agree with you. But with the fact that they're not taking responsibility, if we don't take responsibility, then we will lose the NHS. Of course, maybe it would be good in this regard if we were in America and except it was England, because then we'd have guns and we could overthrow the government.
It works so well for Trump fans.
Yeah, but I'd like to think that we're a little bit brighter than Trump fans. A little bit.
True.
I'd hope we are. So yeah, we're all on the same page of that one. There are no objective truths about matters of fact. Truth is always relative to particular cultures and individuals. I mean, the first question is, what theory of truth are you applying there? I've got my answer, obviously, but I'm just throwing that one in there.
Yeah, this is sort of like a postmodernist deconstructionist take, in that, say, something like the story of Thanksgiving in America is seen as a truth, but it's not really the truth if you look at how, say, the Native Americans might discuss it. But then I think you're using truth more in a colloquial way.
Yeah. Yeah. I think both you and I will probably have the same answer on this one as well, in the sense that we're going to click disagree.
Yeah. I mean, think of that meme where it's two people stood in a parking spot. That's a 6. No, that's a 9. Truth depends on your point of view. But somebody painted that to be a particular number, so the objective fact is that it's whatever number it was painted to be.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, there can be certain things that are perception. For example, we can go back to taste in music. You know, I could say I really enjoy metal because I do. I think metal is good. So that is true for me, but it might not be true for you.
But it would be true for somebody else because it would be true for them that you like metal.
Yes, but if you were to say metal is good, in my opinion,
That's not a truth app statement.
that's fair. But yeah, yeah, fair enough. Oh, green there. Atheism is a faith just like any other because it is not possible to prove the non-existence of God.
Yeah,
Fuck
I
off.
think you know my answer to that one. Similar to what you just said.
I mean, when they're saying there is a faith, I imagine they're using faith as a religion rather than faith as in trust. And even if you're just talking about it being something you're trusting in, it still doesn't really follow. I think it is possible to prove the non-existence of some gods as they are written as well, because they are as illogical as a square circle.
Yeah.
So, and seeing as it's done the big capital G, I assume that it's talking about the Abrahamic deity, which, as written, I think clearly does not exist. I'm not saying that there isn't a deity that it could be based on. There could be, you know, it could be human error that's described it in such an erroneous way. I believe no gods exist. I don't necessarily assert that as a fact, though. In the same way that many will claim, my God definitely exists. Um, uh, so I think that most of us are in agreement with that one. I wonder what the responses are in chat. Um, Leon says disagree. Their use of faith here is sus. So I mean that's coming from an agnostic. So cool. Philip, big disagree. Yeah, that's because you're a big fat atheist like us. Except you're the pretty kind of big fat atheists, and you're not fat either.
No, I'm the only fat one here.
I don't know, mate. There's a reason I don't come above this part.
Why do you think I hide behind the microphone, keeping the triple chin away?
Luke also disagrees, and Rusty is drinking a beer that tastes like grapefruit. That's interesting. I've actually had a beer that tasted like I was drinking Lilt, which was quite nice. I also had one that was supposed to taste like engine oil. It wasn't particularly nice, but I don't know if that's actually what it was tasting like because I've never tried engine oil. Um, oh, you're fully back in the room. That's good. I'm glad you're back, dude. How did the AMA go? Oh, and on the previous question, Leon says relative truth is dumb. Yes.
Yep.
We definitely agree with you there. Okay, cool. Number 19. Proper sanitation and medicines are generally good for society. Well, I mean, that's kind of cut and dry, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know how anyone could argue that it wasn't. Oh, I mean, unless you're
Yeah.
overly capitalist and you've got a very, 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 you know, one line view on what society is society is good for me.
Yeah. Or
um,
you're an anti-vaxxer.
yes. Yeah, the pro disease crowd might disagree with that. You're absolutely correct there. Uh, Number 20. In certain circumstances, it might be desirable to discriminate positively in favor of a person as recompense done to harm for harms done to him or her in the past. So, is this saying that, like, I might have harmed someone in the past, so I'm doing something nice to them now, or is it saying that someone in the past had bad things done to them, so I'm treating them favorably now, even though I had nothing to do with those harms?
No, I think it's more like, oh God, what's it called? Sorry, I'm having a bit of a brain freeze at the moment. But it's when you say 10% of your company must be made up of African Americans in order to help, further them within society, because they've been ridden roughshod, through their whole existence in America, then positive attempts to help them out are morally good.
I mean, this
I
one's
can't remember what
actually,
it's called.
yeah, I mean, there is the positive racism, but I don't think it's necessarily where we're going from with this. Probably
I'm
more.
not sure it's racism as such.
No, but I
Be-
mean, it can be regarded that way. So positive racism is actually something different. It's when you assume that because someone is Asian, they're going to be good at math, for example, or be a really dedicated hard worker. So I was being a little bit tongue in cheek before. Um,
ah,
uh,
but yeah,
but
I do think it's good. Um,
I think it's
like,
needed.
yeah,
Um, so in that sense, I can understand it's desirable. I'm not necessarily sure. I'd say it's good. I think it's needed, and that's the important thing. But I think that there are times when, because a company has a quota to, they might employ someone isn't as good at the job because of this quota at the same time. So it could
yeah,
have a negative effect. Um, but it's needed as well. We need the balance. There's the gender pay gap. The whole diversity and inclusion thing. I think that's actually the company I work for is one of the most diverse and inclusive companies I've ever worked for. It's actually amazing to work there, which I found kind of crazy. I mean, it's a massive corporation worldwide, and it's just they're so accepting of everybody and how weird everyone is, and I mean that in a positive way because everybody in the world is so different, and there is no real requirement for people to be who they're not, and it's quite refreshing, you know. Um,
yeah.
so in certain circumstances, it might be desirable. I definitely say yes. In certain circumstances, I'd agree.
Yeah.
I just think there are times where it will also have a negative effect as well.
I think that's probably why it uses the phrasing in certain circumstances.
Yeah. Um.
It's basically readdressing the hegemony of society.
Yes. Yes. Definitely. Just catching up on the chat. Bearded Heretic gives a strong agree. Uh. Leon gives a less strong agree. Philip gives an agree. Um. Luke also goes, people may be worse because of systemic racism due to the lack of training opportunities, and can only get around it by getting people in those jobs. No, 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 I definitely agree with it. That's what I'm saying. It's not necessarily a good thing, but it's a necessary thing. So it may not have the best result, but it has a needed result, and hopefully in time it will then have a good result. It's just there could be this pain getting to that point. It's needed now. So I completely agree with what you're saying there, Luke. I do apologize if that didn't come across with what I was saying.
I've also just remembered what it's called,
Oh yes.
or at least in America, affirmative action.
Yes. Yes. I don't know what it's called over here though.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure it's even policy over here.
No, there are definitely quotas to fill.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I lost a job once as a teenager to a company that had a quota to fill. At the time, it wasn't a race thing. It was about people with special needs, and they didn't have anyone who had special needs. They needed someone there,
Ah,
which was fine. I didn't want to work in Sainsbury's anyway.
good call.
Oh,
I've
no.
worked for them.
Well, no, I have worked for Sainsbury's. It was Safeway, which then became Morrison. So I didn't want to work for
Ah,
Safeway anyway.
good call.
Yeah. To be honest, they were probably better off with that person anyway, because I wouldn't have been a long term employee there. I would have been using it as a stepping stone to get money. So
Yeah.
it long term it was actually a better choice for them anyway. But yeah. Um, Alternative and complementary medicine is valuable as mainstream medicine. Well, I've already addressed this on the stream.
They need an extra option in there. Bollocks.
Yeah. um, I thing is, it's not as valuable mainstream medicine. I think some people might find value in it. Um, I know that there are times that these things might work for people. Sometimes it's placebo, and sometimes it's actually just their particular chemistry works with this sort of thing. The reason it isn't mainstream medicine is because, in general, it doesn't work for people. And some of it never works for anyone. So it's definitely not as valuable. But on a subjective scale, there could be times when it is, or even has more value, just because that person needed something different. So, I mean, being charitable I wouldn't even go in an 80-20 rule. I'd say in a 99-1 sort of rule, or maybe even less than that, that maybe it can be. But in general, hard disagree.
But all value is subjective.
Oh, shut up. That's a good one, actually. I mean, I know you and I have both done an article on value. I mean, I did the article on value because I misread your article on value, and I
Yeah.
was trying to understand what you meant. And we ended up having a 3-day conversation over WhatsApp, and it turned out that what I thought on it was actually in line with what you thought. I just misunderstood, and I was spending this time trying to work out why you thought that. And you kept giving me links to different sites and articles, stuff like that, to read on value. And I was like, this backs up what I think. So
I was still a second year student when I wrote it.
and I just write things in a dumbed down way that I hope people can understand. I'm basically the Cliff Notes version.
I think I used alternative and complementary medicine as an example in it, as how value isn't wholly subjective.
You did. You absolutely did,
Yeah.
actually. Good callback. um, Luke confirms that it is called affirmative action over here as well. Yeah, I was a Safeway rep. Well, no, in fact, I wasn't a Safeway rep. I was. I got denied working for Safeway, but I was. Um, uh, working for Sainsbury's, and I used to ask to go out on the trolleys because that was more fun than working on them.
Trolley collection is awesome. That's
It
why I
really
did it for
was.
like 5 years.
Yeah, you're out in the fresh air all day, and yeah. See, how long can I make this snake without smashing things?
And how fast can I go through this crowd of people without running any of them over?
Oops, sorry. So in response to this question, Leon, Bearded Heretic, and Philip all disagree in a big way. So awesome. I think this is interesting actually because like on the morality one that we did the other day, there was a hell of a lot of deliberation. I know I ended up changing 5 of my answers, but even then, there were some that we all still had difference of opinion on. Whereas the quiz that we did earlier and this one, I think we've all been in pretty much the same situation, apart from the one that I, got just war wrong. But then I changed it when I realised that I was wrong with my understanding. Severe brain damage can rob a person of all consciousness and selfhood. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I mean that one obviously came back to the first test that we were doing as well. But of course it can. In the same way that things like dementia can as well. Yeah, and you can end up being, as they sometimes say, a vegetable. So, and in that in that regard, it definitely can. I don't think there's any way that you can actually argue that one, um, even from a scientific perspective as well. Brain activity dies. There you go. You've got no consciousness and selfhood going on there.
Yeah.
Uh, Philip says, "What does selfhood?" I think that means personhood, or your
No.
sense of self.
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay. Um, yeah. Okay. Your sense of self. So you know how we were talking about? There's the difference between the person and the man. So the man being the physical self, the person being your internalized self. That's what that's talking about. Um, But equally, you could say that being robbed of consciousness and selfhood does rob you of your personhood as well, or at least diminishes it, depending on which theory you apply.
Yeah.
Was that a vague yeah because you don't want to get into a conversation about personhood right now?
Yeah.
Fair enough. We'll skirt round
It's
that
a
one.
big, complicated topic.
Oh yeah. I mean, we did an episode on personhood on the Fresh Air podcast, but that was Martaine's theory of personhood. So that's just what he did, and we ended up creating this pyramid of what gives something personhood and different tiers and everything like that, and it was quite interesting. But that's not the only theory of personhood, so we need to revisit that at some point. I don't know whether we do it as a podcast or we do it as a stream.
A stream would be good because then everybody else could enjoy and get involved as well.
This is true. Um, so, if selfhood is related to identity, then I disagree. Oh, really? Um, why? If you don't have so brain damage can make you lose your sense of self and your consciousness. That's what it's talking about there, Philip. So why do you disagree? Because if you have let's just say that you have enough brain damage that you're still physically alive, but you have no consciousness going on. You cannot perceive your own identity. I mean, if you think about someone who has Alzheimer's as well, they lose all of their memory till they're essentially a blank template. Um, they're not the same self that they once were. So, in the same sense that if someone becomes in a vegetative state, they too, have lost that sort of sense. So I'm interested into why you think someone that's had severe enough brain damage that they haven't lost their consciousness and selfhood. Yeah. And Luke says, "Oh, I agree. I read it wrong." Yeah. Okay. Um. All right. Let's move on with that one. I will wait for you to feedback, and I'll come to it on the next one, Philip, if you want to answer it. If not, don't worry. Number 23. To allow an innocent child to suffer needlessly when one could easily prevent it is morally reprehensible. I mean, no question.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go on from that one. If I look back at the chat, people are disagreeing with that one. The environment should not be damaged unnecessarily in the pursuit to human ends. I mean, that one's quite cut and dry as well.
Yeah.
Michelangelo is indisputably one of history's finest artists. I suppose I could say that someone could dispute it. It depends on whether you're taking, like we were having with our aesthetics conversation, are we talking about an objective standard or a subjective preference? But I'd have to agree on this one, I think.
Yeah. It depends. If you go with Thomas Kolka's theory of what is art, and we define art as certain things, then you could say he is indisputably one of the finest artists. But is that definitely a definition of art? It all depends, but I would agree.
Yeah,
because he produced amazing works like Sistine Chapel.
mm-hmm.
So yeah, I would agree.
Yeah,
Even though people could dispute it by just going, well, art is subjective.
yeah. But that's what I'm saying. Like, someone could dispute it,
Yeah.
but
Oh yeah. What I mean is, I agree with you.
yeah. But again, like we were saying, if we were talking about objective standards in art, someone could subjectively disagree, but if they were doing it against an objective standard, they'd be wrong.
Yeah. It depends on what you're using as a theory of art and aesthetics.
So Luke says Da Vinci was better though.
But it says one of rather than the.
Yeah, that's true. He also corrects it indisputable and says it's undisputable.
This is probably an American site.
So they've got all their philosophy wrong. be continental instead of analytic, wouldn't it?
Analytic stems from Britain originally, though.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Over there, it'd be continental, wouldn't it?
No.
Oh, would it not?
No.
Is it just
They
Canada?
generally follow. No. It really depends on the type of philosophy you're doing, really. There is no country that has a particular standard of philosophy.
I mean, obviously, that's just a particular callback to a certain someone.
A particular person, yeah.
Individuals have sole rights over their own bodies. I mean, yeah. There are obviously certain situations where for example, we would make choices for our children to get vaccinated, things like that, because they can't make the choice themselves. So I can see situations where they don't, but if we're talking about an individual at the age of consent and all of that sort of thing, where that is what I'm taking from individual. I'm not taking the few nuances where obviously we do things for our kids and stuff. So yeah, what's the
Yeah, I
chat
would
say?
agree with this one as well.
They're carrying on talking about art, so we'll carry on.
And also, yeah, I think Luke's right. It was Michelangelo that did the Sistine Chapel, wasn't it? Not Da Vinci.
You are, yeah, but we were talking about Michelangelo. He brought up Da Vinci, saying Da
Oh,
Vinci was better.
okay, yeah, my mistake. Sorry, it's been a very long day.
Yeah, you threw me off there though.
Yeah, that threw me off as well.
Acts of genocide stand as a testament to man's ability to do great evil.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah. You know, we noticed this on the morality one as well. Like, you get to the last sort of 5-10 questions, and they become really easy. Like,
And then the final question is a total mindfuck.
let's see if that rings true today. The Holocaust is an historical reality. I don't like that. Is that how it's supposed to be said?
That's proper English,
Is
yeah.
it? Proper English is wrong. Taking place more or less as the history books.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know there are Holocaust deniers.
but they're dumb
Generally,
and
they're
wrong.
conspiracy theorists, extreme right wing nutters.
Yeah.
Governments should be allowed to increase taxes sharply to save lives in the developing world.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd lean to it. It just depends on what they mean by how much as well.
Yeah.
Within reason and to the point where it's not going to throttle people, I think it would have to come top down and focus on the richer people first, because obviously there are people living in absolute poverty that if the tax rate went up, they wouldn't be able to afford their own lives, and then we'd turn certain areas within our own country to third world states, essentially. So applied sensibly, I would definitely agree, and I think it almost should be done, because I'd like the world to be on a level playing field, and you know,
And not see people suffering and starving.
exactly. So yes, applied sensibly, yes.
Yeah.
I I I want us to all be like one world, one people. You know? I'm gonna stop there though, otherwise I'll go off on one for ages. The future is fixed. How one's life unfolds is a matter of destiny. Well, we already had the conversation on that, and as I lean towards compatibilism, I'd have to disagree with it for now. I do not take a deterministic or fatalistic approach.
Well, yeah, this one seems more like slightly religious question, because destiny involves some sort of pre-planning.
Yeah, predeterminism rather than determinism.
Determinism, yeah.
Yeah, actually, it's people don't see a difference between the two, but predeterminism is essentially determinism with a conscious choice involved. as in it's been determined for you, whereas determinism is that's just the way it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But regardless of which way you take it, whether it is predeterminism or determinism or fatalism, fatalism is actually an interesting one, because you can have free choices within it, but no matter what happens, the end result will always be the same. Which, that's even. I mean, to be honest, there is one thing that we could say is fatalistically true, and that's that we're going to die. But I think that's really the only certainty that we have in life. Certain
And you'll poop
taxes.
at least once.
Yes, true. Often in your mother before you're even born.
Yep.
Well, I thought, yeah, so the last question wasn't a fucker. So Luke also sorry, Philip agrees on 29, as does Luke. Yes, so Leon disagrees on 30, Philip disagrees on 30, but is actually agnostic towards it, and Luke disagrees. So, I mean, on that one, I understand why you might be agnostic towards it. I think the whole free will thing is confusing. And actually, it depends on how you take to it. So, Philip, I think you'd agree that it is. If we were taking that as the predetermined route, I don't think you'd be agnostic on it. I think if you're going down the determined or fatalistic route, I can understand why you might be agnostic on it. And I'm sorry if I'm putting words into your mouth here, Philip, but predetermined obviously means that there's that conscious element going into it. So it would mean that there would be some sort of deity planning your life out for you, or you'd be a program in a simulation, I guess, could be another way that it would be predetermined. But if it's talking about a deterministic or fatalistic approach, I can understand being agnostic towards it.
Yeah.
I do lean towards a form of compatibilism. And if you really want to know my thoughts on it, then I have an incredibly long article on Answers in Reason called Free Will and Determinism, that I've referenced quite a lot of different people's thoughts on the matter who are far more brainy than me. And they can't agree between themselves, so you know. And in fact, Dave has one called Free Will, a Compatibilist's Approach as well. So there's a couple that may help you, may confuse you more. Who knows?
If it's my writing, it'll confuse you more.
Same question again.
I think it's just for classification purposes.
Yeah, no, it's needed. It'd just be nice if I could log in and not have to do this bit.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm complaining about clicking 4 checkboxes.
Well, it's 4 checkboxes you needn't have had to click if they allow to log in.
Yeah. Damn you, philosophy experiments. you wasted 3 seconds of my life. Right, philosophical health check analysis 1. Dave, is yours the same as mine on this one?
0 tension, yeah. And
interesting.
yeah.
That's what Leon said he had as well. So, the philosophical health check is designed to identify tensions or contradictions, tension quotient, between various beliefs that you hold. The PHC does not aim to identify which of your beliefs are true or false, but where the beliefs you hold might not be compatible with each other. The test identifies a pair of beliefs as being a tension where A, there is a direct contradiction between them, or B, some sophisticated reason is required to allow both beliefs to be held consistently. If two of your beliefs are in tension, we advise that either giving up one of them or developing some rationally coherent way of reconciling them, assuming you have not already done so. It may help to think of the idea of tension in terms of intellectual balancing act. Where there is little or no tension between two beliefs, no particular intellectual effort is required to balance them. But where there is a lot of tension, either one has to jump off the high wire by abandoning one belief, keep one's balance by intellectual effort and dexterity, or else fall off the high wire by failing to deal with the tension. You should note this test only detects tensions between pre-selected pairs of beliefs. It does not detect all possible tensions between all permutations of beliefs. So there may well be additional tensions between beliefs you hold you are not detected by this test, which are not detected by this test. The chart above shows your tension quotient score and also the average tension quotient scores across all the people who have completed the test, where lower is better. The next page of analysis will detail particular tensions in your beliefs identified by the PHC. Seeing as I've got 0 there, I mean that's good, isn't it? It means that my beliefs are quite consistent and coherent, right?
Yeah. At least the ones these are referring to.
Yes. I'm sure that I have erroneous beliefs. I have many of them. I do my best to change them where I can. As you've probably figured out, the philosophical health test has identified no tensions in your beliefs. 3% of the people who have completed this activity to date similarly have no tensions in their beliefs. There are a number of possible explanations for your excellent performance. You have a very consistent set of beliefs. Taken this test before, you got lucky. Well, it's definitely not 2. I've never even read anything other than the first page before today, which isn't even the questions. It was just looking at what it was. Maybe I did get lucky. That's for you guys to decide out there. Maybe I did get lucky. I feel that my beliefs were consistent.
Yeah, I'd go with 1.
Yeah. We're the best around.
Well, we actually do spend time discussing and thinking about what we believe, so that helps.
It definitely does. And I mean, I think it's quite clear that when it's pointed out on stream when things don't work, there is that moment of oh fuck. Yeah, that doesn't work, does it? I need to
Yeah.
They want us to have another go at the test, responding differently this time round. Ooh.
Just to see what kind of tensions you've managed to avoid. So, yeah.
That was really interesting, though.
It was. We should do a couple more next week.
Yes, definitely.
There's quite a few on there.
There are. Let's bring things back. Let me just quickly change things. Folks, give me a second. I'm going to get rid of the big screen.
It can only be attributable to human error.
There we go. We're back in the room. So, yeah, that really okay. So looking at it, Leon has 0 tensions, and Luke has 0 tensions. So it's almost like you guys also think about your positions as well. Funny that.
We need somebody like Duke or Chris Mann or somebody like that to take this test. That would probably give some very interesting results.
That is great. That is absolutely fantastic. Maybe I should send a message to and ask him to take the test and send his results over.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. But that was really entertaining, actually. I really enjoyed doing that. I hope everyone out there enjoyed the conversation and everything as well. Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to doing another stream on some of those tests as well.
Yeah.
It is interesting, though, that with the exception of my faux pas, like, there wasn't any deliberation that changed my opinion. Like with the morality one, there were a few bits where I suppose because there was a bit of vagueness to the morality question, it was like, but what about? But what about? What about? And I went, yeah, okay, I can see in those circumstances, then actually, yeah. Whereas with this, they were a bit more black and white, so it was a bit easier to answer the questions. So yeah, now there is a lot going on about Dawkins going on in the chat. So let's cover this off briefly right at the end. Rusty says Dawkins wasn't trying to be bigoted. Look at his intentions. We can't know what his intentions were, and the way he came across and his comparisons that he gave were not right. There is a big difference between, for example, race and gender. In fact, if you want someone to really, really have a rant about it, we'll get Luke on. Because he said it in a perfect way that encapsulates things. I mean, Luke, shall I read out your message? It was a private message, so I won't if you don't want me to. But I think you said it perfectly when you sent that earlier. So I don't know what I've done with my phone. Oh, I suppose I've got access to it on thingy. But yeah, I think. Of course. Well, there we go. We've got permission to read it out. So I'll bring up the messenger thing. TweetDeck. There you are. So moving past the eugenics thing. Dawkins is just not good with social issues. Like, maybe he was just asking a genuine question, but he should check the science first. There's very good reasons that transgender and transracialism are different. Firstly, they're different types of social construct. Gender is predicated on sex. There are clear genetic and epigenetic differences between the sexes, and prenatal hormone exposure seems to be a key influencer, along with postnatal hormone production. Race is a pure social construct. Other than melanin production and some features that evolve for hotter climates, there is no psychological difference between the races. All of the differences you see are cultural. You can't change a hormone and think like a black person. Race categories are purely based on colonial superiority. Dawkins, as a biologist, should know these things, and when he asks this question, to me, it is him asking it from a place or rhetoric in order to assert the fact that he doesn't agree with the concept that somebody can separate their biological sex from their sense of identity.
Yeah, perfect.
Oh, Cameron, you just joined us. We're literally at the end of it. Sorry. You might have to catch the rerun. But we have posted links to the tests that we've done, so I'd be very interested in your results as well.
Yeah.
If you want to, fact, you've got me on Facebook as well, haven't you, Cameron? If you can do that philosophical health check and let me know what your tension score was, that'd be really interesting because, well, there was a lot of agreement that went on tonight, and it'd be interesting to find someone that had a lot of disagreement. So it's a shame that you weren't there. Although, to be honest, Cameron, I think you'd have agreed with most of them anyway. Um, but yes. Was there anything else we needed to cover tonight before we end?
No, not that I can think of.
No? Okay. Well, in that case, next week is the last week of April. So the last day in April that we will be streaming is Thursday. So that will be an end of month free for all. Because it went down quite well last time, except this time I'm not going to be streaming for 8 hours straight. That's bloody insane.
Yeah, I couldn't have kept it.
It was really fun, but yeah, I think if I hadn't have been in such pain, back pain wise, and taken a couple of tramadol, I wouldn't have stayed awake that long either. But yeah, hopefully my back doesn't go out between now and then, and it becomes a more normal one. But if anyone wants to join us, obviously, I will send out a limited link to the Discord server, and you can just join us on air as a guest and just chat about anything. So that's the end of month free for all, and then next Tuesday there was something I wanted to do, but I can't remember what it was.
Tuesday,
Yeah.
the philosophy of mind one.
Oh, is that going to be next Tuesday?
Yeah.
Oh, you're going to
I'll
get
get
it
it done over the weekend. Yeah.
Oh, it's a big promise, Dave.
No, I'll get it done.
Okay.
I mean, I can recycle my slides for the presentation I did for the masters.
Fair.
If worse comes to worse, yeah.
Fair. Cool. So there you go. So next week we've got Philosophy of Mind on Tuesday, and on Thursday is going to be the end of month free for all. So I mean that's it from us tonight. I hopefully will. 24 hours, Philip. No. No. I will do a 24-hour stream at some point for charity. If we can find a charity that I think maybe when we get a few more subscribers, and we can get some people involved, maybe get like if we can get Stephen Law or something like that on to do a half-hour slot with us, something like that would be absolutely fantastic. But at the moment, I think we're probably still too small to make much of an impact, and I don't want to do a 24-hour stream to raise a tenner for charity. But in the future, I will definitely be up for doing it. And in fact, at some point, I'd like to see how long we can go before actually just passing out. Just see if I can just mix whilst I have Dave tell me philosophical things at the same time. Have both sets of headphones on like this, just like just see when I finally pass out.
Yeah, I can't stay awake for longer than 5 hours at a time, I'm afraid.
Yeah, but that's fine. At that point, we turn the music back up and I carry on mixing, and then you come back 5 hours later.
Okay.
Or you could do a shift. You do a shift with Luke. we end the philosophy and go into psychology, and I go, oh, fuck. Yes, Leon, time has flown by. It is going to be another free for all next Thursday. The last one does seem so present in my mind. It might be that maybe we should do them every 2 months instead of every month. But as last month's was the first one, let's see how this one goes. And if they are going to be as messy as that every single time, then I agree. They should definitely be every couple of months. And maybe if they're going to be that messy, we should try and do them on a Friday.
Yeah, I think your missus would kill you if you went on a bit too long this time.
Yes, probably would. She was very charitable last time.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, then that's it. We've been doing the philosophy experiments tonight. The first one was called Staying Alive, and then we did the philosophy health check. You've been listening to the Fresh Air Sci-Fi stream. I'm Joe.
And I'm Dave.
Have yourselves a good night, everyone.
Good night, all, and thank you for joining.